All right, the Senate will come back to order. Senate will come back to order. Majority Leader, your light's on. Did you miss me?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to make a point of order. Mr. President, we miss you. We know you've been out doing the people's business, but this Senate chamber has been running like a well-oiled machine all morning, and we're ready to go to work, sir.
I know. Well, you had a show horse there. I'm a workhorse. I'm not a show horse, man, you know? I heard my only friend was the senator from the second while I was gone right here. Huh?
He knows rules committee stuff.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
It appears that there's only 2 members of the minority party in the chamber, so let's go ahead and get to work real quick so we can get some bills passed.
I don't know. I'm gonna defer to my favorite senator right here from the second, the only one that was defending me. I understand. So, all right, Senate will come back to order. We've got Senate Bill 450. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 450, a bill by Senator Kennedy of the 18th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 5, 15, 44, and 53 of the OCGA relating to appeal and error, courts, property, and wills, trusts, and administration of estates, respectively, so as to clarify that neither superior court nor a state court shall have an appellate jurisdiction pursuant to Chapter 3 of Title 5 over any non-appealable order of a probate court and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 450, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 5, 15, 40, 44, and 53 of the OCGA relating to appeal and error, courts, motor vehicles and traffic, property, and wills, trusts, and administration of estates, respectively, so as to clarify that neither superior court nor a state court shall have an appellate jurisdiction for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the second, for what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Now, Mr. President, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but it does appear to me that the Senate moved fast enough so that the President pro tem of this body could present his bill.
Ah. Wow. It's pretty quick, Senator. Pretty quick. Well, I now want to thank the pro tem for the wonderful job that he did. You know, he's a hard act to follow, being so smooth and so well dressed and so well spoken. I mean, but Senator, please take the well for your bill here.
Mr. President, I am so glad to say welcome back, sir. We are glad to have you. So glad to have you. And the timing is good, Senator from the second. It worked out well that we took a lunch break, and now I get to present my bill. Thank you, sir. Nothing passes you, does it? I like it. My good friend, I want to present to you Senate Bill 450. Y'all may remember that in 2022, we had HB 916, which updated the Superior Court appellate practice, and that is when you're appealing a case from a lower court, such as a probate court, to the Superior Court. We updated the entire procedure for that. Unfortunately, some of the language that we used, and that was an update bill that was, I think it was about 80 or 90 pages long, had some provisions in it that are now being determined to be ambiguous with regard to whether or not when you're a litigant and you're appealing from the probate court to the Superior Court, do you still have a right to a jury trial like you have had forever? And some of the interpretation is that under the new law that you do not. And we did not intend to, nor do we want to, deny people the right to a jury trial under the circumstances where you have been entitled to one forever. There's a few other cleanup provisions in the bill, but that in essence is what the bill does. I can go line by line and tell you about the details, or we can keep up the great tradition that this Senate started this morning with efficiency and moving these bills out. And if y'all put a bunch of green lights on the board, we'll be ready to roll to the next bill. Mr. President, I'll be happy to answer any questions, or I'll be happy to yield the well.
You do have one question, Senator.
Yes, sir.
Senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the pro tem yield?
I do, to my good friend from the 14th.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Pro Tem, is it not true that voting against this bill would be an abuse of discretion?
I think I agree with you, Senator.
Senator, do you further yield for one more question?
Yes, sir. One more.
Is it not true that if the majority fails to maintain discipline on voting for this bill, that you will pull the sheet and review de no votes?
That's a good one, Senator. We will review the no votes.
Thank you very much,
That's
Senator.
very nice. Well done.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. We got to start buying tickets, y'all.
Yeah, there's no more questions, Senator.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Thanks for your green votes.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to a report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary reads Senate Bill 473.
Senate Bill 473 by Senators Albers of the 56 and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 10 of the OCGA relating to commerce and trade so as to enact the Georgia Consumer Privacy Protection Act to protect the privacy of consumer personal data in this state and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Science and Technology recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Setzler of the 37th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Science and Technology offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 473, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 10 of the OCGA relating to commerce and trade so as to enact the Georgia Consumer Privacy Protection Act to protect the privacy of consumer personal data in this state and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 56 to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my honor to bring you Senate Bill 473, which is a Georgia Consumer Privacy Protection Act. Data privacy laws are legal frameworks that aim to protect consumers' personal information. Data privacy laws allow consumers to know what information a company collects about them, why the information is collected, and how that information will be processed. Laws also give people the right to determine who can access their personal information. Examples of data privacy laws that we all know have been around for some time, such as HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, PCI DSS, and many more. Several states have adopted similar type of laws, including Texas, Tennessee, Utah, Colorado, Virginia, California, and more, as well as the European Union, which many of you may have heard of the acronym GDPR. Data privacy is sometimes confused with data security, but they are separate. This focuses on organizations' technologies and tools to make sure that you know where your protected data is and ultimately how to remove it if you want to delete it. Data privacy laws, in addition to giving peace of mind to consumers, each one of us, it can also benefit the companies to meet their compliance requirements. When a company demonstrates compliance, consumers and third parties can know that their data is respected and secure, which means they are likelier to continue doing business with that company. An example that you may have seen is you'll get disclosures, whether it be in paper or email, asking if you want to opt out. Anybody who has done the recent Apple update or Google update in your phones found when you pulled up your phone, it asked you, can this app track you anymore? The reason for that is the other states that have put some of these protections in place are where these companies are housed, so they have to comply by this basic information. Our data is an electronic world now. It's not like it was 10 or even 20 years ago. We've been working on this bill for many months with all the key stakeholders. This is modeled almost exclusively off the bill that was created in Tennessee. We made some minor tweaks. I want to thank the Chairman of Science Technology, the Senator from the 37th, for his good work on this bill. And we made sure that we put important exemptions into place. For example, we will always have that superseded by any federal or state law. We mentioned HIPAA just a moment ago. We have regulations that continue throughout the federal code and here in the state code, such as insurance, as well as other groups that share information for the reasons of public safety, credit, etc. We also work with the stakeholders to make the effective date July of 2026, giving more than 2 years' time for all the folks to comply, although most companies who are affected by this are embracing this one way, shape, or form from the myriad of other states and other countries throughout the world that already have this in place. In the bill, it defines the different roles. There are consumers, there are processors, and there are controllers. And most importantly, it allows you to know where your data is, gives you an opportunity to opt out, and a 45-day cure period to make that happen. We've worked very hard in this bill. We've gotten a lot of feedback on this bill, and I have committed to work with all of the interested parties as we move it over to the House and to the House Committee, and I've already talked to the chairman over there, and I'm confident we'll continue to make some tweaks along the way to continue to perfect the bill through this process. I'm going to ask you stand with me today to pass this bill and keep it moving forward. It's important to protect all of our data, and it's important for Georgia not to be falling behind in this critical area. Mr. President, if there are questions, I will yield. If not, I will yield the will.
You do have one question, Senator. Senator from the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, I appreciate what I understand the intent of this to be, and I'm not on the committee that it came through, and it's kind of complicated. But I'm hearing from my health insurance carriers and friends, and then also the hospitals, that they have real concerns that it somehow violates some of the HIPAA regulations that they have to adhere to. And I just wish you'd address that and see if you could explain why so many people in the hall seem to be unhappy with the latest version of this.
Senator, thank you for that question. I'm glad that you brought it forward. In the original bill from Tennessee, they called out many different individual exemptions. However, the chairman, Senator from the 37th, in his infinite wisdom, was concerned that if we called out everything individually, what happens when those change at the federal and the state level? It means our bill will always then have a compliance issue. To remedy that, we exempt everything that is a federal or state law or regulation. So obviously HIPAA is all covered that way. Insurance is all covered under our state insurance commissioner. So while I understand people like to see their particular name, this actually benefits them much greater because those laws and rules will change over time. And I think part of that is just an understanding of the bill and what it does. And I've met with many of those, and every person that I have talked to who's got a vested interest did understand the reasoning for that.
Would the senator further yield?
Certainly.
Is there a particular line item or section you can point to that addresses what you're talking about, or is it not in there because y'all took it out?
No, it's actually in several areas of the bills. Let me try and find some line numbers for you, Senator. You're going to see state and federal laws being exempt from, I think it's in 4 or 5 areas of the bill. I do not have them highlighted in the version I have in front of me.
Okay. Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, no more questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, my fellow senators, I'm going to ask you to vote in favor of this bill, keep it moving on so we can continue to perfect it. I am confident that we have done the right thing and will continue to make it better as we move to the House.
Senator, you do have one late question from the chairman of the committee you went through there, if you'd like to take it.
Certainly.
The senator from 37th.
To the senator yield.
Yes.
Isn't it true that on line 501 through 504 of this version, it says nothing is artificially to be construed to conflict with the specific requirements of related to the management of health care records under Title 31. That's the state-specific health care records. And then it says mandated by any provision of federal law. So rather than enumerating 10 or 12 specific things, we said this shall not conflict with any provision of federal law, which also invokes the rules and regs, and the health care record requirements of our state law.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for finding those lines and that clarification. I'll yield the will. Thank you.
Senator has yielded. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 37, the nays are 15. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Moving on to SR 570. Secretary? Where did I put my pen?
Senate Resolution 570 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Supporting Safety and Welfare of All Individuals in Department of Corrections Facilities Study Committee and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this resolution do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 29th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. It has been quite a while since I've stood in the well with a non-controversial bill and without hair on my face. So SR 570 is very simple. All I'm asking for is a study committee to look into the Georgia Department of Corrections so that we can see what we're doing right and what we need to work on. I would ask each senator to please support this. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded. Recognize the senator from the 14th.
I'm personally offended by those groans, Senator. No, thanks, Mr. President. Two ideas I want to leave with you that I'm super grateful for. Super grateful that this chamber is taking this up. The first idea is that it's not egg on your face to admit when something's not going well, and just because something's not always going well doesn't mean that the person in charge right now is the one responsible. And Commissioner Oliver has done a fantastic job of trying to respond to a lot of the concerns that have been existing in GDC for a long time. The second idea that I want to leave y'all with is, I think what's really important about the name of this committee and what it focuses on is the humanity focus of the people inside, the welfare of the people inside, because as we've discussed over and over in here, gang activity, contraband, conflicts that happen inside the prison have a way of spilling over to outside the prison. And if we can keep focused on the conditions inside and the welfare of the people inside, public safety outside the walls will be enhanced as a result. So again, just super grateful, and thanks for letting me share those thoughts, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair hears none. Is there objection for the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the reported committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The reported committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption resolution, the yeas are 53 and the nays are 0. This resolution having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Secretary Reed, SR 583.
Senate Resolution 583 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th and others, a resolution honoring the life of Dr. Robert F. Sullivan and dedicating a road in his memory and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Transportation recommends that this resolution do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dolezal of the 27th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Transportation offers the following substitute to Senate Resolution 583, a resolution dedicating certain portions of the state highway system and for other purposes. Whereas Dr. Robert F. Sullivan has had long been recognized by the citizens of this state for the vital role that he has played in leadership and his deep personal commitment to the welfare of citizens of Georgia and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator from Habersham County. Isn't that the TV Dukes of Hazzard? Wasn't that Habersham County? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. What? Oh, Hazard.
It's close enough. Well, thank you, Mr. President. I rise to bring you Senate Resolution 583. This will rename a portion of the road in Franklin County after Dr. Robert F. Sullivan. There are some other roads that have been added to this in the Transportation Committee. I want to thank the Transportation Chairman for adding those to this so that we can be more efficient in the chamber and continue our streak of passing bills quickly today. I'm happy to yield to any questions, or I can yield the well.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution? Chair hears none. Is there objections to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the resolution by substitute. All those in favor of the resolution will vote yea. All those opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption resolution by substitute, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted by substitute. Secretary, read SR 609.
Senate Resolution 609 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a resolution recognizing the Princess Trelita and dedicating a roundabout in her memory and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Transportation recommends this resolution do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dolezal of the 27th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Transportation offers the following substitute to Senate Resolution 609, a resolution recognizing the Princess Trelita and dedicating a roundabout in her memory and for other purposes. Whereas Cherokee legend tells of a woman named Trelita who lived in North Georgia mountains near present-day Dahlonega and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from Dahlonega, Georgia. All right. Yeah, aren't you? Say Blue Ridge, but it's Dahlonega. It's Dahlonega.
It is. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senators. I appreciate the opportunity to present this important road naming bill. SR 609 is a road naming to dedicate the intersection of Highway 19 and 60, which is north of Dahlonega on your way to Suches or to Blairsville, if you're familiar with that part of the world. And this intersection is known as Stone Pile Gap, and there's a burial in the middle of the intersection where the roundabout was put just a few years ago. And if you'll stop there and place a stone on the grave, the legend is that it'll bring you good luck. Princess Trelita was buried there hundreds of years ago, and her remains remain in that area. And so this roundabout will now be called the Circle of Princess Trelita at Stone Pile Gap. Mr. President, I'm happy to take questions.
You do have a few questions, Senator.
I assume there would be.
Senator from the second.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
I will, for the man from Savannah.
Now, Senator, my question is, and I had to drive up I-16, so I had time to think about this rules calendar. Senator, my question is, did we speed up the first half so we would ensure to get to your resolution today? Was that the sense of urgency earlier?
We wanted to make sure we did not need a peace treaty at the end of the day if we did not pass this bill. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Recognize Senator from the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the senator yield for a
sure-
series of questions?
I will. I sure will. See where we're going so well until now.
Senator, is it not true? Were you once a Seoul commissioner, Seoul County commissioner?
The senator knows of which he speaks.
And then weren't you later a member of the DOT board?
You continue to know of which you speak, Mr. Senator.
And now is it not true, now you've sunk to being a senator?
That is correct.
So you had ultimate power as Seoul commissioner.
Absolutely.
A little bit less as DOT commissioner, now you're just a senator.
I went from being like an Indian chief to a spoke in the will down here amongst all you fine senators.
Senator, as a former member of the DOT, surely you understand that before roads can be built, that they have to investigate if they're disturbing a historic site, if there are any Indian artifacts, if there's a grave or cemetery. All that's part of the process.
You're correct.
Can you explain line 15 through 17? Then how she could be buried at the intersection? Did DOT miss that grave?
No, sir. I can assure you our tax dollars were spent to make sure that grave was protected at all costs. And so all federal highway regulations were followed along with all state regulations as well. So that was taken good care of.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you for your concern, Senator.
Recognize the Senator from the 27th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does the leader yield?
I will for the Transportation Chairman.
Thank you. I know this bill was well vetted in our committee. I do want to ask you a question about lines 7 and 8, which say, whereas Trelita supposedly drank from the magic springs, which helped her maintain her renowned youthful beauty.
Yes.
Leader, have you too drank from the magic springs to help maintain your youthful beauty?
Well, you know, some of us down here say we're not just a pretty face, but I will say the magic springs that is more of a Cherokee word, but it's translated in English as mountain moonshine. So.
Do you further yield?
I do.
Have you ever partaken in the consumption of mountain moonshine?
I would have to plead the fifth on this stage.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Recognize the Senator from the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I will for my part-time resident of Lumpkin County.
Part-time resident. Is it not true, Senator, that this location is well known throughout the North Georgia mountains?
Absolutely.
And is it not further true, Senator, that the princess of which you pronounce Trelita, is that correct?
Yes.
We really don't know where she's buried.
Well, you didn't have to say that here,
I
Senator.
didn't have to say that. You did say, I appreciate it, Senator. You did speak correctly. Was it not true, Senator, that you said that she is buried in the area?
That is correct.
Very
But
true.
I'll also refer you to lines 3 where it says, whereas Cherokee legend tells.
And if the senator yield, we know that the legend is always true. Is that not true, Senator?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Recognize the Senator from the 24th.
The leader, will you have I have just two questions. Two questions, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Leader. Is this where you're going to be buried?
Not far from there. In fact, 2 miles from there is my burial grounds.
Are you trying to get a free cemetery plot?
No, sir. I would never disrespect the Indian tribes like that, Senator.
Well, you may want to consider that would be a good, cheap
I will take that under
cemetery.
consideration. Thank you.
All right.
Question, Senator.
Yes, sir.
Senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I sure do.
Senator, have you introduced this resolution before?
I don't recall ever introducing this.
It seems like we've seen it once before, like it's come around once or twice.
There are multiple bills regarding Indian affairs in this building.
And I've heard your arguments today. They all seem quite circular. Is there any comment you'd like to make towards that?
Well, that's the circle of life, and so we could get into some real deep philosophy if you wanted to, but I think we'll, in the interest of time, we'll leave the red book out of this and move on.
Senator, I'd go ahead and yield if I was
believe
you.
I will. I want to thank all of my senators for this well-vetted process that we have gone through today on this very important piece of legislation. It is important for my community in North Georgia, and seriously, thank you for this. I appreciate it, and I'll yield the well.
Not sure where the burial is, but you're going to put it in the middle of the intersection. So you're a kind soul. No, we just messing with the senator. That is that there's a strong. It's Creek Indians, isn't it? It's the Creek Indians. Is it Cherokees? Creeks. All right. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the resolution by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 25th, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that every time I ride by that Cherokee princess grave and I ask her what she's doing, she says nothing?
I missed that one, Senator. I completely missed that one. It's one of them Undertaker jokes. On the adoption of the resolution by substitute, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. This resolution has received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted by substitute. Secretary reads Senate Bill 465.
Senate Bill 465 by Senators Goodman of the 8th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to homicide, so as to provide for the felony offense of aggravated involuntary manslaughter, to provide for definitions, to provide for elements of the offense, to provide for penalties, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 465, a bill to be entitled an act to amend in Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to homicide, so as to provide for the felony offense of aggravated involuntary manslaughter, to provide for definitions, to provide for elements of the offense, to provide for penalties, to prohibit merger, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 8th. Speak to the bill.
Colleagues, it's my honor to bring before you the Lieutenant Governor's Bill, Senate Bill 465, otherwise known as Austin's Law. This bill is named for Austin Walters. Austin was my constituent, and he was a gifted young man with a kind heart and a great personality. Austin loved people, and people loved him. It's a testament to this fact that he was one of the top performing salesmen throughout the entire nation for AgPro, a nationwide John Deere dealership franchise. But Austin, like so many of our friends, family, and fellow Georgians, suffered from anxiety and depression. He sought to treat the issues that he faced by buying Xanax off the street. Unfortunately, he bought Xanax that was laced with fentanyl, and that mistake cost him his life. Shortly after Austin's death, his dad, Gus, began emailing me asking for help in enacting legislation to strengthen the penalties for those who are killing our loved ones by spreading this poison throughout our neighborhoods and our communities. Mr. Gus would email me about once a month asking what he or I could do to bring more awareness to the epidemic of fentanyl and what could be done to spur the Georgia legislature into action. I forwarded every one of those emails to the Lieutenant Governor, his General Counsel, and his Chief of Staff. Austin's Law was drafted in large part because of those phone calls and emails, and I'm eternally grateful to the Lieutenant Governor and his staff for answering the cries of Austin's parents, Gus and Beth Waters. I'm grateful to Gus for his steadfastness in the fight to try and ensure that other parents across Georgia will not have to face the same heartbreak of losing a child to this poison. Mr. Gus and Miss Beth, words can never express the hurt that you and your family have been through. We know that Austin's death has caused a hole in your hearts that will never be filled. But if any good at all can be found in this senseless tragedy, I believe it is the law that bears your son's name. As the father of 2 young sons, I want to thank you for your tireless devotion to make sure that Austin's death wasn't in vain, and for everything you have done to help get Senate Bill 465, Austin's Law, to the floor of this chamber. We are forever grateful. Mr. Gus, Miss Beth, would you please stand and be recognized? Unfortunately, Austin's story has become all too common in American society. After we filed Senate Bill 465, I received countless emails and text messages from parents who had lost a child to fentanyl poisoning and wished to express their support for this bill. I heard from Lauren, whose son John died on January 30th, 2023, from fentanyl poisoning. I heard from Christy, who lost her young husband Michael to fentanyl. I heard from Angela, who lost her 20-year-old son struck down in the prime of his life from fentanyl poisoning while attending UGA. I heard from Stephanie, who lost her 21-year-old son Ryan to fentanyl. All their stories broke my heart, but it really hit home when a young lady who serves as an administrative assistant to 2 of our fellow senators seated in this chamber walked into my office and asked if she could speak to me. She then pulled out a death certificate from a manila envelope and began telling me of her brother who died from the plague that is now infamously known as fentanyl. It broke my heart as tears welled up in her eyes, and she thanked me for my work on the Lieutenant Governor's bill known as Austin's Law. This is Austin. I'll now give you an overview of the bill we crafted in Austin's memory. Austin's Law will give law enforcement and prosecutors an appropriately powerful tool to hold fentanyl dealers accountable for the destruction they cause to so many Georgians' lives, to bring justice to the victims' families, and to combat the fentanyl epidemic in our state. Austin's Law creates aggravated involuntary manslaughter, which makes it a crime to cause the death of another human being by intentionally manufacturing, delivering, distributing, or selling any substance that is in fact a controlled substance, counterfeit substance, or imitation controlled substance. After conviction, the sentencing court will have the authority to sentence the defendant from 10 to 30 years or life imprisonment. Also, under Austin's law, drug dealers will no longer be able to benefit from loopholes in the law to evade justice. Fentanyl causes the majority of fatal drug overdoses in our state, but the vast majority of those who perish did not believe that they were ingesting fentanyl. Sometimes dealers know they're selling fentanyl-laced drugs. Sometimes they might only suspect the drugs that they are selling are laced with fentanyl. And let me say this, there were 106,000 people died in 2022 from overdoses. Over 70% of those deaths are attributed to fentanyl. These people that are selling this stuff, they know that there's a good chance that it's laced with fentanyl. Sometimes they might believe they're merely selling heroin or some prescription opiate like oxycodone. Because of these realities, drug dealers benefit from the requirement currently under Georgia law that the state must be able to provide beyond a reasonable doubt that the dealer knew the chemical identity of the drug he sold. Under Austin's law, when the defendant intentionally sells what he believes to be a controlled substance and the substance kills someone, law enforcement will have the tools to bring that drug dealer to justice. This bill, I want to thank the senator from the 46th for all your work on this, the Senate Judiciary Chairman for your work, all the other attorneys on the Senate Judiciary Committee for working with us and crafting this legislation. I really want to thank the Lieutenant Governor and his staff for being receptive and for everything you've done to help get this bill here today. I know that I'm grateful, and I know the Walters are as well. I'd be happy to take any questions. If not, I would urge your favorable consideration.
You do have one question, Senator. I recognize the senator from the 41st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, do you yield?
I do for my friend from the 41st.
Senator, isn't it true that we grieve the many, many deaths of everyone in our great state and country who are dying from this fentanyl epidemic?
We do. 2,400 last year in the state of Georgia, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you further yield?
I do.
Senator, isn't it true that we all as a body are committed to continuing to address our opioid epidemic that is raging across the state?
I do believe that.
Do you further yield?
I do.
And Senator, isn't it true that your bill, after great conversations with many of us, no longer includes mandatory minimums?
Yep. The senator knows of what she speaks.
Is it further true that this bill allows for judges to exercise discretion when it comes to sentencing in these types of situations?
It does.
Thank you. Do you further yield?
I do.
And is it also true, however, that your bill, while you talk specifically about people who are selling the drugs, that this bill will also capture people who are, say, friends who are in college who share drugs with one another, that they too would be captured by this bill?
It could, but when we took out the mandatory minimum, you have judicial discretion in these matters. It can be probated. The problem is with taking out the word delivering, when the drug dealer gets the 17-year-old kid and gives him the 3 or 4 opioids that are laced with Xanax, you have to be able to cover that. And so I think our hope is by enacting this law and by the deterrence is just not there. Obviously, it's not. This epidemic that's plaguing our country and killing our children is. And so I'm hoping that this increased deterrence is going to hopefully make it where those fentanyl-laced drugs never show up in the hands of that 17-year-old child.
One final question, if you will.
Sure.
Senator, isn't it true that I look forward to working with you in this body to end this practice of manufacturers lacing all of these drugs and killing our young people and older people? I look forward to working with you. Isn't that true?
The senator knows of what she speaks. Yes, ma'am.
You have no more questions, Senator.
All right. Thank you. I urge favorable consideration. And thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I can't imagine the loss that a family goes through if they lose their child to an overdose or this type of a death. I really, truly can't imagine it. I'll tell you my concern today. My concern is that in a situation like this, nobody wins. You know the interview after a court case when somebody's found guilty and they're going to go away for the rest of their life. You talk to the family of the victim, say, how do you feel? And the family often says, well, nothing can bring my child back. This is some measure of justice, but it still feels incomplete. I wouldn't get up here today unless there were one story in particular that I lived over the course of several years in my capacity as a state legislator relating to a parole case. And with respect for the privacy of the family, I'm going to leave all the names out. But essentially what happened was you had two friends who did drugs together. One of them died. The other friend was tagged with the criminal violation and went away. That person was still an addict when they went into prison. They deteriorated in prison. Their family was very concerned that they were going to die in prison from addiction issues and mental health issues generally. I kept in touch with this family over the course of several years, communicated with the parole board. I would say miraculously, this person was released eventually to get care. That was the reason they were released, is to get health care, because otherwise they might have passed away in prison. But they did so over the strenuous objection of the victim's family, which you might imagine. I think that we are in a really tough position with fentanyl nationally and in this state. It may surprise you to know that, based on what I've learned, I do support a lot stronger border protections on fentanyl specifically to cut off the root cause. I support legislation to crack down on people who know that what they're doing is distributing drugs laced with fentanyl. People who know that they're killing people. Drug dealers who have this as their design, the complete recklessness, carelessness about human life. My good friend, what I cannot support is a bill that would increase penalties on people who are addicted to drugs and using those drugs out of desperation the same way that the family that I was involved with had to deal with. I really didn't want to get up here and speak today because the best way to honor the memory of any loved one lost is to feel the pain of their loss, and I don't feel like in the position I'm in standing up here that I can communicate that with full trust. I feel like that's a high bar for me to hit. But just know that the place I'm coming from when I say I can't vote for this is a profound sense of understanding, having talked to and experienced this alongside a family of what this tragedy is like, and a desire not to make this type of tragedy any worse for the people who struggled to make the right choice in the first place. And with that, I'll yield for a question.
You have a question, Senator. Senator from the 41st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I do, thank you.
Senator, as we consider this bill, can you talk to me about the implications that this bill might have on our amnesty laws as it relates to if you are with someone and they overdose? Right now, our amnesty laws do allow for you to call for help, to take that person to get help. How might this impact our amnesty laws?
I'm not a specialist in this area of law, but what I will say is so much of the reform effort that we undertook as a country to get out of the harmful war on drugs the way it was constituted decades ago was to recognize addiction and drug use as a mental health issue. As a mental health issue where people are acting out of desperation, they're taking drugs to kill the pain, to have some sort of an escape from life and the difficulties of life, and that people, like any other activity, will do drugs together. If you don't have a safe space, to the Senator's point, for people to try and go get help because of laws, candidly, like this, it could create more harmful situations. Again, the villain on TV, the fentanyl dealer who's trying to harm people, everyone in this chamber agrees that that person deserves to go away. That you won't find a single voice disagreeing with that. But the tragedy that families experience, I mean, the parents in the case that I worked with would have given their lives. They would have given absolutely anything to intervene on behalf of their child who got caught up in this, who made bad mistakes, and who participated in a group activity that got somebody killed. They would have given everything they own, and they couldn't stop it. I think it is naive to think that a 10-year to 30-year penalty is going to do what those parents could not. Thank you, Senator.
You have no more questions, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Senator, would you like to close debate, or you good? Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 33rd, what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Isn't it true that we're sailing down the calendar at a good speed today?
Senator knows what he speaks. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49 and the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Gus and Beth, we're so sorry for your loss, but we appreciate y'all being here today. And I just want to tell you, your senator, the senator from the 8th from Valdosta, Georgia, he's given me more credit than I deserve. This was all on him. My folks here, Brad Vong and Lorianne Paradise, did help him with it, but he was the one pushing it for you, and he was being a true constituent. He was taking care of his constituents, and it's a good bill that he passed, and we're glad to have it. And once again, we're so sorry for your loss, but thank you for being here today. So thank you. Secretary Reed, SB 497.
Senate Bill 497 by Senators Hickman of the 4th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to vocational, technical, and adult education so as to redesignate the High Demand Career Initiatives Program as the High Demand Apprenticeship Program and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Higher Education offers the following substitute to SB 497, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to vocational, technical, and adult education so as to redesignate the High Demand Career Initiatives Program as the High Demand Apprenticeship Program and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I recognize the senator from the 4th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, this is another workforce development bill, and we're so honored that out of the Workforce Study Committee that the senator from 46 headed up, we have had several bills, and I think we may have one or two more, but this bill expands the High Demand Career Apprenticeship Program that is administered by TCSG. It also has a priority for students ages 15 to 21, and we've added a public service apprenticeship program as a part of it. The purpose of the bill is to ensure that the CTAE, which is Career, Technical, and Agriculture Education, aligns with our workforce needs. In this bill, we're changing the name from the High Demand Career Initiative to the High Demand Apprenticeship Program. And this is not to be confused with the governor's High Demand Career Initiative efforts in House Bill 982. Let me tell you a little bit about this. Any apprenticeship program that's already in existence, is in existence as of July 1, 24, will be grandfathered in under the old rules as opposed to the new rules. The new rules are to expand the number of employers in the program. We're going to reduce the award from $10,000 per program to $5,000. And the Office of Workforce Development will fund the initial cost of $2,500 at the beginning of the program, and then $2,500 at the end of the program for apprenticeship. So in essence, what we do, we really are expanding this program. So because we got a lot of companies, got many locations. So in the past, a company could only have 5 apprenticeship programs. This will now expand it to 10 apprenticeship programs. We also have put priority apprenticeship programs that hire youth ages 15 to 21 or adult education students working on a high school diploma. So as I said, we expanded it from 5 to 10. Also, the payment of this $5,000 in the apprenticeship program would be paid $2,500 at the very beginning of the apprenticeship program and $2,500 at the end of the apprenticeship program. I want to make sure that we understand this is not paid to the apprentice. This is paid to the company for working with the apprentice and absorbing. As we all know, anytime we hire new people to work for us, whether it be lawyers or accountants or whatever, it's a learning curve, and this is just a way of helping those companies come back with some of the money that they spent on the apprenticeship program. We also have added a part to this. If you remember in our bill that we had yesterday, we also are expanding this also to governments. So establish a public service apprenticeship program. So we're directing TCSG to create a public service apprenticeship program, partner with state and local governments to provide job opportunities. Also, we will have a cap in those of 10 apprenticeship programs per local government or state agencies. So we want to develop opportunities tied to completion of high school CTAE public administration pathway programs. Again, the same is $5,000 per government or local state agencies. And this legislation requires annual TCSG reporting for the program, and it actually, as so many of our programs like this have, it has a sunset, and sunset July 1 of 27. At that time, if the General Assembly feels that that program has been successful, then it can reauthorize and continue to fund the program. Currently in this program is $1,250,000, and that actually comes out of our general fund. So, Mr. President, that's the end of my presentation on the bill, and I'd open it for any questions.
Senator, you have no questions.
Thank you, Senators, and I look for please vote green. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? No. Senator from the 55th. Madam Leader, Senator from the 55th, you just want to come after this bill's over with, right? You got your light on for the... Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure. Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. If I could have everybody's attention real quick. I've got the minority leader would like to come and take the floor, and I think she might have a little announcement for us today. So.
I was told to go get them. Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I am just coming to let you know that I am going to retire at the end of the year. Are y'all gonna clap for me? Actually, I was just joking. I don't know if that's a clap with good riddance or what that clap is for, but I've had an extraordinary journey at this Capitol. Didn't have a clue that I would stay more than the designated 10 years I gave myself. Instead, I'm working on 26. But I just, there's a piece coming out tonight on lawmakers, and I didn't want those of you that don't already know, didn't want you to be surprised to hear it from TV and not from me. I wanted to bring it to you myself. And so, Mr. President, I will only be saying Mr. President to you for about 29 more days, and members of the Senate, about 29 more days, unless we have a special session. And I can't even imagine what that could be. So we don't want a special session. But as I said, I just wanted to tell you myself and let you know, and not hear it on the street, but hear it from me. And thank you for putting up with me for all these years. Those of you that have been down here a long time, it's not but a few of us left. The rest of you are babies that have come in long after I've been here. But I've appreciated working with all of you. And maybe on Sine Die, I'll say a little bit more to you. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, that is surprising news, but exciting news for you being able to retire on your own terms. That's always, when you walk away from a career under your own terms and your own strength, that's always a good thing. And it has been, Madam Leader, I just want to tell you, it's been a pleasure to work with you. You have been a fantastic friend. You've been a fantastic legislator. And you've been a great, great leader of your caucus. And I had learned a lot while I was in the Senate serving with you, and I've enjoyed being able to serve with you in this capacity as well. And I know I speak for the majority caucus that if everybody could get along and disagree as well as we do in this chamber, where the world might probably be a better place, and that's because of your leadership and your even keel and approach on things too. So we appreciate that, Madam Leader, and we're going to miss you. And I'm glad you told us now. Now we can do something special for you before day 40 gets here, all right? So thank y'all. Let's give her a round of applause again real quick. Secretary Reed, SB 515.
Senate Bill 515 by Senators Hatchett of the 50th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding emergency medical services so as to provide for a 2-year pilot program to provide additional ambulances to certain areas of the state and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. The Health and Human Services Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 515, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding emergency medical services so as to provide for a 2-year pilot program to provide additional ambulances to certain areas of the state and for other purposes. Senator Hatchett of the 50th offers the following amendment to amend the committee substitute to Senate Bill 515 by inserting time-sensitive emergent after 2 on line 29 and by inserting time-sensitive emergent after extended on line 32 and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 50th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise to bring Senate Bill 515, which is a product of a study committee that we did in the off-season. The study committee looked at rural medical personnel and recruitment and retention. Obviously in rural Georgia, one of the issues that kept coming up at each meeting was the issue with limited resources and limited staffing with EMS across the state. One issue in particular that is an issue in my district, it comes up a lot. If an ambulance in a county takes a patient to Atlanta, for example, that ambulance is gone for 4 or 5 hours. It's completely offline, and that rural area goes down in ambulance. So then if there's a bad accident or something were to occur, they are without a way to transport someone. What this pilot program seeks to do is in 2 different EMS regions in the state, we're going to start staffing and sending an ambulance. What that ambulance would do is when an ambulance goes offline in that region, that ambulance would come in and basically be a backup. The next issue that this tries to address is with an ambulance with facility transport from like a hospital to a nursing home or a hospital to a nursing skilled nursing center. Right now, one of the common themes that we hear as an issue with EMS is it's called wall time, or it's when EMS bring a patient into the ER and they have to wait on the wall. The reason they have to wait is because the ER is full, so they don't have any beds. Well, the ER is full most of the time because they don't have beds in the inpatient. And what we learned is a lot of times the inpatient is full because they need to transport patients from one facility to another, but they need EMS to do it. And so it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors deal, but these extra ambulances will be used to help transport patients from facility to facility. And then lastly, there's an ambulance that will be used to back up air ambulances or helicopters when they are grounded for the day due to inclement weather or other circumstances. And Mr. President, I'm happy to yield to any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Actually, Senator, since one of these is your amendment in here, would you like to speak to that amendment while you're in the well?
Yes. So I do have Amendment 1 that I would like for y'all to consider favorably. It changes some wording after working with the Trauma Commission and EMS out in the hall. this will make the bill just better. And then thankful to my friend from the 19th that noticed I misspelled a word on my amendment. So I would also appreciate you supporting 1A. Thank you.
Nothing like a good old Georgia grad helping out a tech grad how to spell. So appreciate you doing that, Senator from the 19th. Does Senator wish to speak on behalf of your amendment?
Point of order, Mr. President. I just want to say I think it's a real sensitive subject.
I could tell by how red his face got right there that it's sensitive. All right, Secretary, read the amendments.
Senators Tillery of the 19th and others offer the following amendment 1A to Senate Bill 515 by replacing sensitive in each place with sensitive. That completes the order, Mr. President.
All right, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. Previous question. All right. So we're on Amendment 1A, authored by the Senator, the Rhodes Scholar from the University of Georgia, Senator from the 19th. Is there objection to the amendment? Without objection, 1A is added. Now we have Amendment 1. Is there objection authored by the gentleman who's authoring the underlying bill? Is there objection to the Amendment 1? Without objection, Amendment 1 is added. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary, read SR 579.
Senate Resolution 579 by Senators Cowsert of the 46th and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the State of Georgia so as to authorize the Georgia General Assembly to provide by general law for sports betting in the state, to provide for the regulation and allocation of revenues of such activities and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends that this resolution do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowsert of the 46th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 46th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it's good to be before you this afternoon with sort of the final step of the sports betting initiatives this year. You'll recall back on February 1st, we passed the enabling legislation to allow the state of Georgia to offer online sports betting. And part of that debate was whether or not it should have a constitutional amendment. And I laid out my arguments then where I think it's very clear in our Constitution that we need to do this. And I think it's the politically appropriate thing to do when you make this type of a major policy shift in your state, to let the people vote, let them weigh in on it. So this is the constitutional amendment that bill that we passed. Its effective date is upon the passage of a constitutional amendment and its ratification by the voters. This is to give the voters an opportunity to speak on the issue. It is very precise. It gives us, as the legislature, the ability to create a gaming commission that would oversee sports betting activities, separate and apart from the lottery board. It also allows the lottery, though, if they would like to participate and offer sports betting, to be granted a license and do that. It tracks almost identically the agreed upon division of tax revenues that were laid out in the enabling legislation here a few months ago. As you recall, that money went to pre-K education programs predominantly and lottery programs. In this bill, it lays out that the tax revenues will be 80% paid over to the Lottery Education Fund, with priority to be used on pre-K programs. Only when they are fully funded, it will then roll into Hope Scholarship programs. That's 80%. But maybe most importantly to me, this bill dedicates 15% of all the revenues gained from sports betting to educate the public about the dangers of problem gaming, about your odds of winning or losing, to prevent addictive gambling and problem gaming. Programs do that, and finally to treat that. This is cutting edge nationally, to be dedicating funds for those problems, which inevitably will arise to some degree, but by tackling them up front, we should reduce any problem gaming that comes about. It has a ballot question that's on the back that is just as clean and straightforward as you can be. There's no way any voter would be confused by it. It's just yes or no whether or not the state of Georgia will be authorized to provide by our laws, the enabling law for sports betting, and it lays out the purposes that the funds will be used: pre-kindergarten and Hope scholarships, services for gambling addictions, and the advancement and promotion of sports in this state. We put 5% of the proceeds to promote sports in the state of Georgia. The FIFA World Cup, the college football playoffs, Final Four basketball, golf events, race events, any type of sporting events, it would be used 5% to fund that. So I'm more than happy to take any questions. I know we've all sort of been through this issue so many times, but I'll stay up here as long as I need.
You do have a couple questions, Senator. Senator from the second, do you wish to ask a question?
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I do.
Senator, I just have a couple questions. Senator, is there any reason in any particular order that tuition grants was listed before voluntary pre-kindergarten?
Because that's in the existing code on the lottery that lists them, but you'll note that as we dedicated here more on page 5, it makes it clear that that second category, pre-K programs, will be fully funded first.
Thank you, Senator, for clarifying. And Senator, a question about on line 108, section C, 5% shall be deposited into the Sports Promotion Fund. Senator, can you explain who would be administering that fund? Will it be from the state's tourism office? Who would be administering those funds from that fund?
Great question, and that's something that's very important to my friend from the 26th, that we provide for the promotion of sports in Georgia, including Sports Hall of Fames. The Gaming Corporation will be in charge of these funds. There's another fund also, the Sports Promotion and Responsible Gaming Fund. They will set up the rules and regulation and be able to allocate those funds.
Recognize Senator from the 21st.
Yield.
I do.
My question is along the same lines from the Senator from the 2nd about the Sports Promotion Fund.
Yes.
I want to applaud you for putting that in there. Isn't it true that the state of Texas has a $100 million fund that they use for going out and recruiting all-star games and Super Bowls and such?
I've heard that they were very aggressive. I didn't know it was that large, but yes, that's for sure.
And isn't it true that we've depended on the business community to go out and raise money, and you can only go to the well so much on that?
That's so true, and I think, something like the Olympics is exciting to me. Those are tremendously expensive endeavors to try to land those events here, and this will give a source of funds to do that. All the pro sports franchises are supportive of this provision.
Isn't it true the last Super Bowl we had when the Patriots played the Rams, it cost $20 million to go out and get that game?
I've heard those numbers.
So we need those funds if we want to be competitive in the sports arena and getting these big sporting events here to help with economic development and tourism.
I agree with you, Senator, and it helps the entire community to bring all the visitors and expose us to people from around the world on these big.
Well, I want to thank you for adding that. Thank you for your work on
Thanks
this.
for your support, Senator.
Yeah, one more question, Senator.
All right.
Recognize the Senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does Senator yield?
I do to my good friend from Cobb
I just
County.
want to know what kind of odds on the wager on this bill would you give the senator from the 35th and I?
I hate to jinx it, but I feel like it's a pretty safe bet right now. I hope to have the support of everybody in this room.
You have no more questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Recognize the Senator from the 13th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise today in support of the senator from the 46 on this sport betting bill, but I want to lay something out that's kind of heavy on my heart here. We're picking and choosing here, and I just want to make sure we understand. We are not voting for a sports betting bill today. We're voting to let the people of Georgia vote for a sports betting bill today. And my position is simply being, I trust the people of Georgia to make the right decisions when a CA is involved. When you're going to change the Constitution, we need to believe in the people of Georgia to make that decision for us. And if we can't go back home and stand in front of our colleagues or our GOP people or our Democrat colleagues, whatever it is, and say, we gave you the right to vote, then something's bad wrong. We let you all decide. I personally feel that we should have a full measure on the table. I think we should be voting to remove the Constitution, the prohibition of gaming on the Constitution, and that's where we should be. I hope we get to that point. But I wanted to stand up here and say to you that I will support this bill. I want us to move forward, but I believe in my heart, and I hope that you all stand with me, that when you vote for these things, you're not voting, you're voting to allow the people of Georgia to make that decision. And when you don't allow the people of Georgia to make that decision, in my opinion, which is just my opinion, we are not doing a disservice to the people of Georgia. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize the Senator from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it as we deal with this issue of gambling and putting it on as a constitutional amendment. Here's the thing I would say first of all is that the people who vote for the constitutional amendment will not have the knowledge and the information that you and I have had the privilege of having over a period of time. And it's interesting, the Constitution of our state says this. It says that protection to persons and property and equal protection to persons and property is the paramount duty of government. And I believe that we need to also, as we look at this, think about a couple of things. Number one, and I had placed this on your desk earlier in the session, the American Psychological Association talks about the effects of gambling on the brain and its vulnerability and addiction to people. Most of that addiction is for young people under the age of 30. That's where we're seeing this come. They've been raised in areas in which they've had access to a lot of video games, and that's where they're pushing this. But the addiction is a real addiction. Is addiction like drugs or alcohol, because it affects the dopamine and the other parts, the chemical parts of the body that are there. I also had put on your desk a piece from the NCAA, and they recognize that gambling is a major problem within the sports arena, and it's one that can cause great problems. We've seen that even professionally with Pete Rose. Ohio, which has legalized gambling, and this was on your desk this morning, it says according to the most recent survey, Ohio Gambling Survey, more than 250,000 Ohioans have problem gambling disorder. The number of people with this disorder tripled between 2017 and 2022. And after sports betting became legal last year, experts expect the trend of the state leaders said to be inevitable to legalize sports gambling in the state, since it was already happening without regulation and taxation. Interesting, as we talk about workforce, this was here. We examined whether sports betting could lead to a rise in a problem gambling, how it's different from other forms of betting, and how a local university is helping build a workforce of counselors to meet the demand. I think the other part is this. When you compare what is estimated or was estimated that this would produce $125 million for pre-K and for kindergarten, that percentage compared to our budget and to our surplus is 0.201% or 0.7812 of our surplus. We have the money. We are the #1 state to do business in. We have a state that is prosperous. We have a AAA bond rating. And I believe that when you bring something in, what you're finding is Ohio is finding they have a great problem. You'll remember also that the theft issue is coming up because once people are addicted, just like drugs, just like anything else, it increases crime as well. I would ask that as we consider this, that the people of Georgia have trusted us. They've trusted us to look over them, and not many of them are going to have the tools and the information that you and I have had the advantage of having. And with that, Mr. President, I'll leave the well.
All right. Senator has yielded. Senator the fourth, you waive. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agree until the report of committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution will vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the second, for what purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, is it not true that the loudest noise that voters of this state can make will be the most silent when they go vote on this measure?
Senator knows the constituency well. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 41, the nays are 12. This resolution, having received the requisite 2/3 constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Secretary read SB 421, please.
Senate Bill 421 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 10 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to obstruction of public administration and related offenses, so as to enhance penalties for the offense of transmitting a false public alarm and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. The Judiciary Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 421, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 10 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to obstruction of public administration and related offenses, so as to enhance penalties for the offense of transmitting a false public alarm and for other purposes. Senator Dixon of the 45th offered the following Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 421 by deleting the word port on line 36 and replace it with the word point. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I recognize the senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate colleagues, it's my honor to bring SB 421 before you today. It is a anti-swatting bill. It increases the penalties for making false calls to a resident. And this bill is very near and dear to my heart, as it is the Lieutenant Governor. It is one of his priority bills, as he was swatted, him and his family, over the Christmas holidays. And I'm grateful for him and his office working with Brad Vaughn to craft this legislation to strengthen penalties for perpetrators that make these false calls to police departments. What happened with me and my family, the first call, we had two false calls that came to our home. The first was actually on Christmas Day. It was a very scary situation for my wife and three kids, as they were playing with toys they had gotten from Santa Claus the night before. My wife was packing for a trip that we were about to go on, and happened to see a half dozen SWAT team officers coming up our steps with ARs drawn. Luckily, no harm was done to anyone, but it was a very traumatic and scary situation. Also, the senator from the 41st, she was at home with her and her family celebrating Christmas with their baby boy, first Christmas with their baby boy, and got a similar call. And I know, speaking with her, it was a very traumatic situation for her as well. The senator from the 32nd was also a victim over the holidays, and it's something that we've got to stop. We've got to make sure that this is put an end to. As there's technology issues, but the strengthening of these penalties will certainly deter people from making these calls. And the senator from the 56th was also a victim of swatting over the holidays, as well as many other elected officials here in the state of Georgia. What the bill does is it increases the first conviction. It becomes a felony if the call is to a dwelling, or if there's bodily harm or death that is caused by the first call. And it is a minimum sentence of 1 year in prison and could go up to 10 years. The second conviction would be a minimum of 5-year sentence, which could increase to 10 years, and the third would be a minimum 10-year sentence. And it also, the first offense, if it's to critical infrastructure, to a school or to a government building, it's a felony with a minimum of 5-year sentence and a $100,000 fine. And it also, in the code section, it cleans up some language and makes it that restitution for any property damage that results from the call be mandatory from the person that is convicted for swatting. Senators, I urge your favorable consideration on this legislation, and be happy to yield the well, Mr. President, or answer any questions if there are any.
You don't have any questions, Senator. Have you spoken about your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have an amendment. It's just cleaning up on line 36 of the bill. We had an error there where it stated public safety answering port. This would change that, would delete port and make it point. and that was the one change. Thank you, Mr. President.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield
I
the
believe I see the First Lady of the 45th District back there. Is that Miss Dixon back there? Can we give her a round of applause real quick? This is an important bill because the senator from the 45th was swatted several times this past off season. I was swatted 3 times myself in my hometown, so this is a serious problem. And I know there was and senator from the 41st, she was swatted at her home as well. So there's been several members right here in this chamber who have and it can be very scary, especially in the metropolitan areas. So, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The question is on Amendment 1. Is there objection for Amendment 1 that's authored by the senator from the 45th? Without objection, Amendment 1 is adopted. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary will not unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. I recognize the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand adjourned pursuant to House Resolution 978 until 10 a.m. on Thursday, February 29th.
The majority leader has moved. Secretary, read the announcements.
Mr. President, all Senate committees for Tuesday have been canceled. Tomorrow, Wednesday, the Rules Committee will meet at 10 a.m. in 450 of the Capitol. The Regulated Industries Committee will meet at 1 p.m. in 450 of the Capitol. And the Finance Committee will meet at 3 p.m. in Mezzanine 1 of the Capitol. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Does anybody have any more announcements? Anybody? Any more announcements? All right. The majority leader has moved that we stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Thursday morning. 10 a.m. Thursday morning, February 29th. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. We're adjourned.